The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the dense forest that shrouded the manor. The mansion itself stood as a relic of the past, its Gothic architecture a stark contrast to the wild growth that surrounded it. Vines crawled up the cracked stone walls, and broken windows hinted at the secrets locked within. Two historians, Dr. Eleanor Prescott and Dr. Samuel Gray, approached the manor with a mix of excitement and trepidation. They had been researching the manor's history for months, uncovering tidbits of its past that hinted at something sinister. Their goal was to explore its abandoned halls and document their findings for an upcoming publication. "Are you sure about this, Eleanor?" Samuel asked, his voice wavering slightly as they stood before the imposing front door. Eleanor nodded, her resolve unwavering. "We've come too far to turn back now. This place holds the key to our research." With a deep breath, Samuel pushed the heavy door open. The hinges groaned in protest, echoing through the vast, empty foyer. Dust motes danced in the moonlight, streaming through the broken windows, and a chill seemed to seep from the very walls. "Let's start in the library," Eleanor suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's where we'll likely find the most information." The library was a grand room, lined with towering shelves filled with moldering books. A massive fireplace dominated one wall, and a heavy wooden desk sat in the center of the room, covered in a thick layer of dust. As they sifted through the books and papers, they began to piece together the manor's dark history. The manor had been built in the late 1800s by a wealthy industrialist, Henry Whitlock. Whitlock had been known for his eccentricities and had supposedly dabbled in the occult. Rumors of disappearances and strange occurrences had plagued the manor for decades. "Eleanor, look at this," Samuel said, holding up a leather-bound journal. It was Whitlock's personal diary. The diary detailed Whitlock's descent into madness. He had become obsessed with contacting the spirit world, conducting bizarre rituals in the manor's basement. He wrote of voices in the walls, shadows that moved of their own accord, and the belief that he had opened a doorway to another realm. "We need to find that basement," Eleanor said, her curiosity piqued. Navigating the manor's labyrinthine corridors, they finally found a hidden staircase leading down into the bowels of the house. The air grew colder with each step, and an oppressive silence enveloped them. The basement was a cavernous space, lit only by the weak beams of their flashlights. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the remnants of ritualistic artifacts lay scattered about. As they ventured deeper, they found a large, ornate mirror standing against the far wall. Its surface was tarnished and cracked, yet it seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted and the shadows around them began to writhe. A low whispering filled the air, growing louder and more insistent. Eleanor and Samuel exchanged fearful glances, their breaths visible in the frigid air. "We need to get out of here," Samuel said urgently, but as they turned to leave, the basement door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Panic set in as the whispering voices grew louder, forming words in an ancient, indecipherable language. The shadows coalesced into ghostly figures, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Eleanor and Samuel backed up against the mirror, their terror mounting. The mirror began to glow, and the figures advanced, their skeletal hands reaching out. Just as one of the apparitions touched Eleanor, the mirror shattered with a blinding flash of light, sending shards flying through the air. When the light faded, the ghosts were gone, and the basement was silent once more. Eleanor and Samuel were left trembling, covered in cold sweat. "We need to document this," Eleanor said shakily. "The world needs to know what happened here." As they made their way back up the stairs, they were met with a horrifying sight. The manor's walls were now covered in the same symbols from the basement, and the air was thick with an unnatural darkness. Suddenly, Samuel let out a strangled cry. He was lifted off the ground by an unseen force, his body contorted in agony. Eleanor tried to reach him, but an invisible barrier held her back. "Run, Eleanor!" Samuel gasped, his voice choked with pain. Tears streaming down her face, Eleanor fled the manor, the sounds of Samuel's screams echoing behind her. She didn't stop running until she reached the safety of the forest. Collapsing to her knees, she wept for her lost friend and the horrors they had uncovered. Years later, Eleanor published her research detailing the manor's dark history and the tragic events she and Samuel had experienced. Her account was met with skepticism and disbelief, but those who dared to visit the manor found it exactly as she described. The manor still stands, a monument to the madness and terror that transpired within its walls. And on quiet nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the faint whispers of the restless spirits still searching for a way to break free.